everyone, Josh here with Exodus Network, bringing out another Outerplane video, and today we have a bit of a hot take topic, and that is Rhona being a bad or good hero. In my personal opinion, I don't think she's all that good, and we're going to go over why. I want to talk about, a couple of the positive things that she does offer, but overall, she's pretty much just not really fulfilling the role that I intended for her on the team. Now, there's a few different things that you could do with her kit to try to make her work, but at the end of the day, there's just a lot of other units out there that I feel are going to be more important for your team in the short term and the long term, especially with the way this game is designed. So let's get into that. First, we're going to go to Hero to show you guys and gals that I have used her quite a bit. She is 5-star. She's level 70. I invested quite a bit into her. Of course, we are on the SEA version of the game, so I'm not spending anything, so I am free to play. She's at 8,500 HP. I did have her at like 91, 9,200, but I had to move some pieces around recently to put on other units. But even over 9,000 HP, she still was not performing very well at all. Even when I had a little bit more effectiveness on her, I think I had like 110, 115 effectiveness or something like that at some point. It still was not enough. Now, granted, when you get her to limit break past 80, I think that goes up to like 120 at base, plus whatever you get from gear. So it's a lot better then. But it's still not really the main issue. It's still not solving the main issue that I really have with her, and that is speed. So let's go talk about that. Let's go to the codex. Okay, so we need to go back in here, put that on. All right. So in the codex, if you go through here, you can look at all your units' base stats from level 1 all the way up to 100. Now you'll notice that all of your units will get additional stat bonuses, varying between characters, but when you limit break at 20, 40, 60, 80, you get the idea. So at level 100, fully limit broken, her speed at base is 94, which, by the way, when you look through, I believe that ties her for last, or she is last of all 3 stars in the entire game. Her speed is that bad. And then even if you throw a lot of 2 stars in there, she's still kind of in the bottom half. And then if you want to take it a step further and compare her with other units that are actually there to do some kind of damage, she's like bottom third. And one of those units that she's with is Edith, who doesn't really even need to be fast at all because she's a tank DPS that counterattacks. So she doesn't really need to be fast for what she's really doing for your team. Whereas with Rhona, you kind of want her to be kind of fast, because one of her biggest attributes to your team, one of her biggest benefits that she provides, is her end of the world ultimate, which is a 4-turn cooldown, and that is an AoE defense down. Now, a lot of people have argued that you could just, her speed's not a big deal. You could just build her as a bruiser, just give her a ton of HP, because obviously all of her skills scale to her max HP. We don't know how much it scales though. It could be 10%, could be 20%. You'd have to do a lot of testing because they don't give us the multipliers for whatever reason, which is a rant video all on its own one day perhaps. But as you can see, her base is around 4k HP and her attack is almost 1100. Now the attack is still playing a major role in her total damage, because I'm assuming here, but in the damage calculations it should be using all of the attack and then whatever the proportion of HP is in her skill, which it doesn't actually specify. So I'm not entirely sure how much of her HP she's even getting towards her total damage, which is very important information that we would love to have. Okay, developers out there, please make that a thing. I don't know why it isn't already. What are you guys doing? We are in a release phase here. We are in SEA fully released after all. I mean, come on now. So please have that done before global. Just small little rant there. But yeah, so her attack and her H are both playing a role in her total damage. So you could build her as a bruiser, but what value is she really going to have for your team as just a pure bruiser? It's just this, 10, 15, 20k HP beast out there, 6-star, fully forged gear, just chilling there in the very end of your lineup because she's so slow like a turtle. And then she might just do a little bit of damage here and there for you. Even with her 3rd burst unlocked, like I have now, you get a penetration of 30% of the target's defense, which is whatever. But again, these attacks are not going to do major damage compared to your DPSs that you're already running. What you want her to do is get that defense break off before your DPSs go, so your DPSs can do a ton of damage. You want her to be that cleave setup, that cleave support unit. And unfortunately, she can't really do that effectively in PvP, she can't do it at all unless you want to build a turn 2 team, which if you do that right now, it's extremely risky because a lot of people are running Valentine, they're running Snow, they're running Eliza. All those units are extremely fast and extremely dangerous in PvP, and they will try to take your team out. You might be able to get away with this turn 2 crap against bots, but when you start climbing the ladder and you get into platinum and stuff like that, and you start running into real players that are building real teams, it's not going to go that way. And now you're not really going to have a reliable option there to defense break with her in your team, because by the time you get to her at the end of the lineup and then the second turn is, or the second round is starting to roll around for you, you might not even have your DPS still alive. They might be dead. Or you've already burnt through a lot of their strong skills just so your team can win or survive, thus kind of canceling the need to run her in the first place. So in PvP, and I am going to bring PvP up a lot because PvP is very, very crucial for a free-to-play, especially in this game, because that's going to be where a majority of your gems are going to come from after you get through all the beginning stuff of the game, all the honeymoon phase and all that good stuff, where they shower you with a bunch of rewards. When those start to go away and you got to get on the daily grind, that is where you're going to be getting a lot of your gems throughout the week. Is going to be coming from PvP. Not to mention the PvP shop is where you're going to be getting a lot of your first and second tier skill books. No, I'm sorry, your first, second, and your third tier skill books. So a lot of that's going to all be coming from PvP, which means you got to do a lot of PvP throughout the week, which means you want to have a strong PvP team. Thus, Rhona just doesn't really fit in that role versus some other options that we're going to talk about here today. Actually, we're going to bring up a couple of references to kind of throw in there in the slot into her place on your team. But yeah, so speed is definitely a big thing. And even against fast bosses, that's going to be an issue. When you get to mid and end game as well, you're going to be fighting a lot of bosses that are going to have resilience at 140 plus. Probably going to start getting to the 200s, I imagine, the further you get. Thus, you're going to have to use a lot of effectiveness on her as well to even get that 70% chance defense when it does trigger to not get resisted. So if you're fighting a lot of enemies that are just AoE and PvP working your way up to the boss, she'll be okay, because then you can run her at the end of your lineup. You can do that. You can set up for your second turnaround, especially if you're trying to build up your chain links. But when you actually get to the boss itself, where the real challenge begins, is she really going to be benefiting you all that much? Probably not. Because it ain't like she's going to be able to go in there and give you a very reliable defense down, because it is built for AoE. That's why the percentage is only 70%, but it's a 4-turn cooldown. So if it doesn't go off or if it gets resisted, you got to wait a whole 4 turns to try that again. And guess what? The fight's probably over by then. So her defense down, unfortunately, is just not reliable. And unfortunately, they did not allow a way to upgrade it even further. You know, go to 80%, 90%, 100%. They didn't even throw it in her chain passive either. Now, her chain passive is one thing I will give her credit for. The increased all allies skill chain damage is very nice as a starter for the chain effect. That's solid. That is very, very good. But outside of that, you know, I'm looking through her kit. I'm looking at what she's doing, her performance in battle, what she's doing for my team, and I'm just not seeing it. I'm seeing so many other units, especially units I'm facing from other players in PvP. Some of these support units I've been bringing in from my friends list. I've been noticing a lot of other units that I can just slot into her spot on my team, and they're performing so much better because they're offering more to my team. More consistency, more team support, more self-sustain, more damage, whatever. They're doing a lot of different things that she just cannot do. And most of it stems back to the fact that she's just super slow. And even with a speed set of gear on her, it's going to be 25% of 94. Because the speed set's only going to give you 25% speed, and her base speed is 94. So that's going to be less than 25 additional speed added to her total speed. And that still is going to be less than a lot of these other units at base level. So she's just extremely slow. I would love for them to rework her, rebalance her, buff her, whatever you want to call it. Give her more speed, or give her a more reliable defense down. Or if you really want to push it, maybe a little bit of both. Do something. Because if I have to build her as just a pure bruiser, she's not really offering anything to my team. She's not. She just isn't. And I know this is going to make some people angry that's invested into her. They're going to be very sad, etc., etc. But we're learning things as we go. This game just came out recently. It only had a couple CBTs that didn't last all that long. So there's still a lot of unknowns and mysteries that we're trying to solve. And I just want to try and get this out as soon as I could, because I feel that Rhona is, I guess you could call her overrated. Overhyped, perhaps? I don't know. I don't feel like she was ever like super hyped, but overrated, I think that fits, because I don't think she's going to be a unit that you really want to invest into too hard, because I feel like she's going to drop off and there's going to be other options for you. Now, speaking of other options, let's go ahead and talk about some of those other options. All right, so I always look through and check all these units out. I always love to have, options. I just want to have options so I can go in and try and find something else. Theory craft. I love doing that sort of stuff. Team building is where I love to make my home when inside these games. So we have Alpha. Alpha is 119 base speed, so already much faster than Rhona. Guess what else Alpha can do for you? Defense down on her skill 1, her basic ability, with guess how much guess how much cooldowns? 0 cooldowns. So 60% defense down for 2 turns versus 70%, except one cost 0 turn downs and the other one costs 4. It's going to take you 4, where I can actually spam this one. Now, granted, it's not AoE, but keep in mind, it's a basic ability, and when you get to the boss stages in most of all the game's content outside of PvP, it's going to be usually just a single boss. Not always. Granted, there are going to be a few stages that will have multiple targets, etc., etc., but you're still mostly going to be focusing on that main target anyways, and that is the boss itself. Therefore, it being an AoE or a single doesn't really make too much of a difference, as long as there's other things that the unit's providing that are adding equal value, if not more value. And I feel that Alpha is offering way more value for what you're trying to do with Rhona. Now, again, Rhona could be a bruiser. She could just be a big body out there that's eating up a lot of damage and then dishing a little bit out, but it's not going to be enough damage to, warrant not, wanting to bring in another DPS, and it's not going to be enough support to warrant not bringing in another option that has better debuffs that are more consistent, or a healer perhaps, or anything of that nature. But whereas with Alpha, you have a 60% chance on her turn 1, her base, and then she has Valiant Concerto. I thought it was Concerto. What am I in wrestling? Concerto, I think that's how you say it. I don't know. But attacks all enemies and has a 100% chance to reduce the target's evasion for 2 turns. 100% chance, AoE, 3-turn cooldown, to reduce the target's evasion for 2 turns. Not bad. And then we have Night at the Opera. Attacks all enemies and has a 70% chance to inflict stun on the target for 1 turn. Now, if you get her up to 3-star, 4-star, and then 5-star, you unlock her level 1, 2, and 3 burst effects. Now, her level 1 already takes it up to like 85%. Level 2 takes it up to 100% chance. And then level 3, enhanced stun, ignores resilience. So if the target does not have immunity to stun, she is going to stun them. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Because then all it's going to come down to is, well, obviously with resilience, it doesn't matter for her level 3. But at level 2 or lower, you're still going to have to deal with effectiveness versus resilience. But at least that's one less thing you have to worry about, because it's 100% chance. So only thing you have to do now is see if it's going to be resisted or not. Not if it's going to trigger. Because we know it's going to trigger because it's 100%. So that is massive. But that's not even really what caught my attention with Alpha. Alpha on her chain passive, after attacking, has a 100% chance to reduce the target's defense for 2 turns. And on a dual attack effect, after attacking, has an 80% chance to reduce the target's defense for 2 turns. So she has more reliable ways to defense down a target than Rhona. She might not be as tanky, but she's offering more support to your team because she's offering a little bit of CC. She got stuns. She's offering more damage for your DPSs because she's taking away a lot of their evasion. So your accuracy on your DPSs should not be as much of a concern. You're not going to get as many misses. And if you miss, you also can't debuff a target. I don't know if you guys and gals know that. Now you do. And then, of course, she also has her potentially spammable defense down on her basic ability. So, overall, in my opinion, I would take Alpha over a Rhona. Now, granted, Alpha, you're going to have to build up the 3-star first to get that first burst, but that's still not going to be as bad as trying to take a 3-star all the way up to a 5. That's not going to do much for you long term. It's just going to stand there like a statue. As I said, some of these units just have more versatility in their kits. And then we're going to go to Marion. I don't want to do Dolly yet. Dolly is a fan favorite. A lot of people know about Dolly. We'll get to her in a moment. If you don't know about Dolly, you're going to know about her soon. So let's go to Marion. This is another one that's really rising up my charts right now. We're probably going to do a video where we talk about like the top 2 stars and top 3-star heroes in the game. And then we might even eventually do a full-on tier list. But we're doing a lot more testing and still doing things right now. So I don't want to rush it yet, but we're getting there. Okay, Marion. Marion has 119 base speed. So again, faster than Rhona by quite a bit. She has Excuse Me on her basic ability, which is attacks an enemy and has a 50% chance to inflict Curse on the target for 2 turns. Curse takes damage proportional to the health at the start of the turn, and you can stack these up quite a bit. We haven't even talked about the exclusive equipments on some of these units yet. It gets even crazier, especially with Marion. You can start really stacking up those curses, which is going to do a lot of damage. Now, on her welcome, her skill 2, which also happens to be a burst skill, has a defense down as well. And look at that. Attacks an enemy and has an 80% chance. So already 10% chance higher than Rhona. Now, to be fair to Rhona, it's 70% chance AoE versus 80% single target. I understand that. But again, as we've said, since she's too slow to really utilize that skill like we'd like to efficiently in PvP as of right now, until maybe we design a really strong tank meta, or if we get some new units down the road that can create a really strong tank meta, we're kind of sticking to like a 1-turn nuke PvP strategy. Like that's kind of the meta right now. So again, we can't utilize that there. And then when we go into PvE and we're fighting a lot of these bosses, most of the time we're just targeting the one boss, or the boss is still our main priority, even if there's other units there. So we don't really need it to be an AoE defense down for that, because most of the time we can handle the waves. Actually, I'd go as far as to say we actually waste our time on purpose on the waves so we can build up our chain before we get to the boss, because you got to really burst those bosses down in 2 turns, 3 turns before they nuke you. So again, we don't really need that AoE to be, that defense down to be AoE for it to be effective for the way this game is designed outside of PvP. But again, inside PvP, it's still a no-go. But so she does a single target 80%, but now on her first burst, so if you get her to 3-star, she will increase that defense chance by 20%, which takes it up to 100% defense down. And then at level 2 and 3, she inflicts additional stacks of curse, which is insane. So, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. It's just crazy to me the way they built Rhona. She just feels so subpar to some of these other units. And I do apologize. I keep saying that these are the burst effects. Those are actually the skill level ups. No, those are the burst effects. Where's the skill level ups? Did they not show them in the... They might not show them in the codex. Let me go back and check something real quick. Let me go to Hero. Let me go to Marion. I have her somewhere. Marion. I probably passed her up at this point. I want to see something. Okay, yeah, Marion. So skills, right here. So damage plus 10%. Yeah, so this is what the level ups look like. I don't know why they don't show that in the codex, unless I'm not doing something right. But for some reason, they don't show you the enhancement effects when you actually put the skill books in it versus the burst effect, because it almost like psyched me out for a minute. I was like, oh wait, am I making a mistake talking about the enhancements? But I was like, wait, there's only three levels there. That don't make no sense. So sorry about that. We had a little bit of a mental relapse, but I just wanted to make sure, double check and everything, you know what I mean. But anyways, back to Marion. So on her ultimate, she also attacks all enemies and has a 100% chance to inflict curse on the target for 2 turns. And then her chain passive, she can of course do more things when it comes to curse, which is great. But back to the defense down, it's the fact that we now have another reliable defense down unit that's faster than Rhona and has a more consistent defense down reduction, because the percentage is better and it's on a lower cooldown. Plus, she's also benefiting you DPS wise because she's giving you all these curses. So again, it's just another 2-star hero that could potentially fill that role that you know, arguably wanted for your Rhona. And then last but not least, certainly not least, we have Dolly. Now, Dolly is a little bit different. She's not really going to be here to do your defense downs. As you can see, we just kind of quickly went through those. Let's go to the speed real quick. Again, it's another hero that is faster than Rhona, which seems to be the trend on this video. Everybody is faster than Rhona. I sleepwalk. So on her basic ability, an attacks an enemy and has a 50% chance to reduce the target's attack for 2 turns. That is huge. And it's 50% chance, obviously, but it's a basic ability. We can't expect too much. Has a 100% chance to reduce all enemies' speed and accuracy for 3 turns. That is insane. Lowering speed by 30% is huge, especially when you consider units that we're running around in meta right now, like Snow, for example, who can lower AoE priority 25% fully skilled out. And then you also have Valentine, for example, who can speed up your DPS with her skill 1 or lower the priority, obviously, of all the units on her AoE. So units like that running around, and then you got to speed down in Dolly. There might be certain situations where you're going to be lapping enemies with more than just your Valentine or your Eliza or your Snow. You might be even using your DPSs more often, especially when you're talking, multiple turns per stage. So that is huge. And again, that's adding more benefit to your team than what Rhona is doing right now. I mean, it's just the way it is. I'm sorry. Attacks all enemies and has a 100% chance to inflict silence on the target for 2 turns. This is huge for boss fights if the boss isn't immune to silence. If they're not immune to silence, this is huge. This is a good cheese strat to get through some content that you probably shouldn't even be able to clear, but she can help you clear it. Dolly is incredible. And then you have her chain passive as well. After attacking, has a 100% chance to reduce the target's attack for 2 turns. So you have multiple ways to reduce attack. You have some CC in here with silence. You have speed down, accuracy down. So your DPS are going to be able to take more opportunities and, of course, have less opportunities to miss, especially if you're running other debuffers in your team. So, again, those 3 units that we just discussed, Dolly, Marion, Alpha, those are just some small examples. There's probably other ones out there of units that you could literally just replace Rhona with, and you would probably not only, get equal value, but probably more value because they're offering a lot of additional things. Or you could just take Rhona into battle as a bruiser and then hope that her defense down becomes useful when she does have it available. And when she does have it available, hope that it doesn't get resisted, because if it does, you have to wait a whole 4 turns to try again. And the fact, again, that it's not going to be very viable in PvP with the way the current meta is set up, where it's pretty much 1 turn and you're done. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I'm sorry, it kind of got into a very long discussion, but I just wanted to kind of deep dive into my personal thoughts and opinions and feelings, and give some feedback on what I feel about the unit overall, because I just feel like she was a unit that I was excited to try out. She looked like, on paper, she looked like she could be really, really good. It was my mistake for not checking her base speed. I should have known that was going to be a lingering issue, and unfortunately, it kind of became the Achilles heel for me with, using her going forward. I'm at this point now where I'm looking for substitutes. 3 of those I've already named here today. We might have some more that we'll go over when we talk about the 2-star heroes, the 3-star heroes, and eventually put together that tier list. But more testing needs to be done. And I thank you all so much for giving me a lot of your advice and your opinions and feedback on a lot of the units that you've been using, especially in the Outerplane official Discord. So that's very helpful. I thank you all so much for that. It'll help make better videos and more informative videos going forward. So that's it for me. Sorry we talked a lot, but I wanted to get it all out into the world so everybody will now know where I stand with Rhona. Unfortunately, I feel that she is just a bad hero that could be greatly improved with some small tweaks. Namely her speed. You improve her speed, and there's a lot more that we could do there, because then I can focus more on effectiveness to make that defense down more reliable, and I can make her more tanky so she can be somewhat of a bruiser, cleave setup hybrid, something like that I could use in a lot of different content. But right now, I just don't feel I can do that. So that's gonna be it for me. Don't forget to subscribe, check notifications, and join me in the Discord in the description below. As always, don't forget to follow us at Twitter, at X's Network. and I'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.